Certain nights stay with you long after they're gone, not because something spectacular happened, but because something felt wrong. Ethan never forgot the winter of 2015. Even years later, when he tried to explain what happened, people would just shake their heads, tell him he was imagining things. But there's something about silence at 3 a.m., it remembers everything. Back then, Ethan was 10. His grandfather had just passed away in November of 2014. It had been a quiet, drawn-out kind of death, the kind that changes the way a house feels forever. Ethan's grandfather had been the heart of their family. He lived with Ethan and his mom in a small 2-bedroom apartment on Hollow Street, a place filled with years of routine, laughter, and warmth. But when the older man's health declined, he moved to another house closer to his other relatives. He kept saying he'd come back once he got better, but he never did. The night before he died, Ethan and his mom went to visit him at the hospital. Ethan remembered the way the room smelled, faint antiseptic mixed with the heavy stillness of old air. His grandfather looked smaller than ever, his once deep voice now just a whisper. He kept asking the same thing, "When are you taking me back home?" His eyes were tired, confused, but full of something like longing. Ethan's mom promised they'd bring him home soon, but the next morning he was gone. The funeral was quiet, almost too calm, the kind where everyone avoids looking at each other for too long because grief feels too heavy to share. After that, the house felt emptier than ever. Ethan's father was working out of town then, so it was just him, his mother, and their old housemaid, Rosa. They all tried to settle back into routine, cooking, watching late-night movies, visiting relatives nearby. But something in that apartment had changed. The air was different. He couldn't explain how, but sometimes it felt like someone else was still there. It was mid-January when the noises began, each night bringing a new wave of anticipation and dread. At first it was small, a clatter, a faint metallic sound echoing from the kitchen. It was always between 2:30 and 3 a.m., right when the world outside went still. The first night it happened, they brushed it off. Maybe a rat, maybe something rolled off the counter. The next night it happened again. Same time, same distant crash. By the fourth night, Ethan's mom was getting annoyed. She set up rat traps all around the kitchen. Rosa double-checked every cabinet and drawer, but nothing. For a week, the traps stayed empty, yet the sound never stopped. Ethan started noticing patterns. It was never random. It always came when the clock hit that silent hour, the kind where the ticking itself sounded too loud. Sometimes it was a clink, sometimes a complete crash, like a metal bowl hitting tile. But every time they checked, everything was exactly where it should be. No bowls on the floor, no broken glass, just stillness. Then one night something changed. It was colder than usual, the kind of cold that seeps through walls. Ethan woke up to the loudest crash they had heard yet, a metallic bang that echoed like thunder through the small apartment. His mother sat up instantly. She thought someone had broken in. She called Rosa, who hurried to the kitchen, her footsteps echoing sharply against the floor. And then there was silence. When Rosa came back, her face was pale. "There's nothing," she whispered. "Everything is in its place." Ethan's mother frowned. "Are you sure you checked properly?" "I did. There's nothing there." That night, none of them slept. The next few days were uneasy. They tried to convince themselves it was just a coincidence. Maybe something outside, perhaps the pipes. But deep down they knew it wasn't. The sound wasn't just noise. It had rhythm, intent, almost as if it wanted to be heard. By early February, the atmosphere in the apartment had changed. The nights felt heavier. Even the air seemed different, still, charged, like the moment before a thunderstorm. One morning, Ethan woke up and realized the lights in their room were on. He remembered turning them off before going to sleep. His mom confirmed she hadn't woken up either. They always locked the door before bed, a habit his mother had since his father was away. No one could have come in. Still, the lights were on. It became a routine. They'd fall asleep in darkness and wake up to the glow of the ceiling bulb humming faintly above them. At first they laughed it off. Then it stopped being funny. A few nights later, the rattling began. It started softly, a faint vibration against the metal window grills. At first it sounded like the wind, but Ethan knew that sound. This was different, sharper, rhythmic, like someone tapping lightly on the metal bars. Their apartment had never made noises like that before. The windows were double-paned, tightly shut, with iron grills outside. They'd lived there 10 years, and never once did they hear rattling. Each night it grew louder, a trembling, metallic chatter that moved along the windows like invisible fingertips brushing the bars. His mother tried tightening the bolts and even stuffed cloth into the gaps, but nothing helped. One night, Rosa rushed into their room, trembling. "The grills in my room are shaking too," she whispered, "like someone's pushing them." They all ended up sleeping in the same room that night, their mattresses close together on the floor. None of them spoke much. The only sound was the faint hum of the ceiling fan, and underneath it, the soft clink of metal vibrating, as if the building itself was breathing. Days turned into weeks, and exhaustion began to set in. They were constantly tired, eyes heavy from sleepless nights. Ethan's grades began to slip. His mother's hands trembled when she tried to make breakfast. The relentless haunting was taking a toll on their mental and physical well-being. It wasn't just the noise, it was the waiting, the quiet dread of knowing something would happen every single night. Finally, his mother decided to consult their family priest. He was an older man known for his calmness and uncanny insight. People said he had a gift, that he could sense things others couldn't. Ethan remembered sitting quietly as his mother explained everything to him on the phone. The crashes, the lights, the rattling. There was a long pause on the other end. When the priest finally spoke, his voice was low. "He's visiting you," he said. Ethan's mother frowned. "Who?" "Your father. His soul hasn't settled yet. He's still looking for home." Ethan felt a chill run through him. He didn't know what to feel. Fear, sadness, or something else. The priest told them to perform a small ritual at home. Prayers, incense, light a candle, and speak softly to the spirit. "Tell him he's home," he said. "Tell him he can rest now." That night they did precisely that. Ethan's mom lit candles in the living room, the faint smell of incense curling through the air. She whispered prayers, her voice breaking now and then. Ethan sat beside her, clutching his grandfather's old photograph. Rosa watched from the corner, her eyes wide but calm. For the first time in weeks, the house felt warm again. The night passed quietly. No crashes, no rattling, just silence, deep, comforting silence. And for a while, everything went back to normal. Months passed. Ethan's father got a new job in another city, and they prepared to move. The apartment on Hollow Street stood empty for a while, but it was hard to let go. It wasn't just a house. It was where they'd lived a decade of their lives. His grandfather's memories were still there, somewhere between those walls. Eventually, his uncle bought the flat, intending to rent it out, and that's when the stories began. Tenants came and went. Some stayed weeks, some months. One man died suddenly after moving in, a heart attack, they said. Another tenant's family member fell severely ill, and he moved out, calling the apartment unlucky. No one stayed long. Some complained of sleepless nights, strange noises, and the feeling of being watched. Eventually the place was locked up. No one wanted it. Even years later, Ethan sometimes thought about that winter. The nights of faint clattering, the glowing bulb, the rattling grills. He'd tell himself it was just grief, that the mind plays tricks when it's broken. But sometimes, when he lay awake in new cities far from that place, he'd still hear it, the faintest echo of metal against tile, somewhere in the back of his memory. And sometimes, he wasn't sure it was just memory. Years passed. By the time Ethan turned 17, the memories of that winter had faded into the edges of his mind, the kind of memory that hides until something makes you remember. His family had moved to another city, to a high-rise building that smelled of new paint and fresh furniture. Life has gotten better. His father was home again. His mother smiled more. And Ethan, he'd learned not to talk about what happened back on Hollow Street. People didn't believe stories like that. Not really. Still, every once in a while, when he found himself awake at 3 a.m., he'd catch himself listening. Not for voices, not for footsteps, just for that sound. That faint metallic clink that once ruled their nights. And each time, when silence stayed unbroken, he'd close his eyes and try to convince himself that whatever had been in that house had stayed there. But peace, as he'd come to learn, isn't always simple. It's borrowed, and sometimes it comes with reminders. It was a rainy evening in late October when his mother got a call from her brother Ethan's uncle, who had bought the old apartment years ago. He sounded uneasy. Someone had finally rented the place again. A young couple, newly married, had moved in 2 weeks ago. They'd been thrilled at first. The rent was cheap, the location convenient, but now they wanted out. "They say weird things keep happening at night," his uncle said quietly. "You know, noises, lights flickering, all that nonsense." Ethan heard his mother sigh through the phone. "Maybe it's just the wiring. That building's old." "Yeah," his uncle replied. "Maybe." But there was something about his tone, that subtle hesitation, that made Ethan look up from across the room. He could tell she was thinking the same thing he was. That night, Ethan dreamed of the old apartment again. He was standing in the kitchen, the air heavy and cold. The clock on the wall read 2:57 a.m. Somewhere behind him, something metal shifted, a spoon rolling, a bowl trembling just enough to make a sound. He turned, expecting to see nothing, but there, in the dim yellow light, was the faint outline of his grandfather. Not ghostly, not glowing, just there, sitting in the same wooden chair he used to love, looking at him with a soft, tired smile. Ethan woke up with his heart pounding, his sheets cold with sweat. For the first time in years, he felt that familiar chill crawl up his spine. Not fear, but recognition. A week later, his mother decided they should visit Hollow Street, just once to see the apartment, to make sure it was fine. Ethan didn't want to go, but she insisted. It's been years, Ethan. It's just a house. He didn't argue, but he remembered exactly how that house felt. The heavy air, the quiet hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. When they arrived, it was almost evening. The building looked smaller than he remembered. The paint was peeling, the hallway lights flickered slightly, that dim orange glow that made everything look older. His uncle was already there, waiting by the door. He handed them the keys. The couple moved out yesterday, he said. Didn't even ask for their deposit back. Just wanted to leave. Inside, the air was stale, cold, that particular stillness that only exists in places left untouched for too long. Dust motes floated in the thin strips of light coming through the windows. The kitchen looked precisely the same tiled counter, the same wooden cabinets. Even the faint scratch marks on the floor were still there. Ethan's mother walked through the rooms quietly, her fingers brushing over the furniture they'd left behind years ago. For a moment, Ethan thought she was crying, but then she said softly, "It feels like he's still here." Ethan didn't answer, because deep down he felt it too. That night, as the three of them sat in the living room, the air grew colder. The building creaked, slow, deliberate sounds that echoed in the silence. His uncle checked his watch. It was 2:28 a.m. The kitchen was dark, but something about it drew Ethan's attention. He couldn't stop staring at the doorway, the faint outline of the tiles beyond. He didn't hear anything at first, but then there it was. Clink. Soft, familiar. A single metallic note. His uncle froze. "Did you hear that?" Ethan's mother didn't move. Her eyes glistened with tears she hadn't realized were falling. The clock ticked. 2:29. Another clink. This time louder, sharper, like something hitting the floor. Ethan stood slowly, his pulse echoing in his ears. He walked to the kitchen doorway, his hand brushing the wall. And there, right by the sink, was one of the metal bowls lying upside down on the floor. It hadn't been there before. His breath caught. He knelt, picked it up, the metal cold against his fingertips, and placed it back on the counter. Behind him, the air shifted. A faint, familiar warmth spread through the room, like sunlight after rain. When he turned around, he didn't see anyone, but he felt it, that presence, not dark, not angry, just watching. And then, for the first time since he was 10, Ethan spoke out loud in that house. "It's okay," he said softly. "We're here. You can rest now." The air seemed to still. The shadows softened. Somewhere the old clock ticked twice, slow and heavy, and then everything went quiet, completely quiet. The next morning, the apartment felt lighter. The coldness that had settled for years seemed to have lifted. Ethan's mother smiled faintly as they left, locking the door behind them. "Maybe it's finally over," she said. Ethan didn't reply, but he felt it too, that deep, inexplicable peace that follows something finally ending. A month later, another family moved into the flat. They stayed. No noises, no deaths, no bad luck, just life. The apartment at Hollow Street was finally just a home again. But even now, years later, sometimes Ethan finds himself awake at 2:30 a.m. in his new home. He'll be lying there, the soft hum of the city outside, the faint buzz of the ceiling fan. And for just a moment, he'll hear it, a single metallic clink so quiet it could be nothing at all. He'll smile, close his eyes, and whisper, "It's okay, Grandpa. I know you're home." And in that moment, for the first time maybe ever, the silence feels safe.